70% of active members are overweight, report fines. 70% of active military duty is overweight. So
why is it that the United States military is 70% overweight at this moment in time? Now, guys, before we get into this, I want to kind of apologize to you guys and tell you guys why it is that I've been gone so long here on Gear Issue 33. I've been focusing primarily on the John Claymore channel, and I've been taking a lot of time writing some things out exactly on how things are going to go. And, of course, I do want to turn this channel, for the most part, into a military movie reviews, and of course also to go on top of this, a military history channel is exactly what I wanted to do. Is what I wanted to do 3 months ago. And of course the last video that I released was a video essay on the film First Blood, discussing the difference between the film and the book. We may revisit that at a later date, later on down the line, probably one day next year, towards the end of next year. But the plan was eventually to come back to this particular page in January. I kept on thinking about it. I didn't really give much of an answer for that, but don't worry. We'll explain more about that towards the end of the video. With that right there being said, though, let's go ahead and dive into this. So it was an article that was released by Military Times about a week ago that asked the question, or at least it was a report, that was concerned why it was that 70% of U.S. military members active duty were overweight. My initial thinking was that they had decided to clump reservists and people who were in the National Guard with active duty military. I'm not saying this, by the way, to rag on any branches, but I'll give you guys a bit of a story here in a second. But I want to go ahead and get to the full clip first and then come back on the other side to kind of address this a little bit further. Let's go ahead and play this first one. It was from the Patrick Bet-David podcast. He's got a guy up there who is actually a prior service Marine himself. I don't really include anything from Adam because oftentimes he just... you'll figure out in future videos. Let's go ahead and roll this.
Times nearly 70% of active members are overweight, report fines. 70% of active military duty is overweight. So a report of American Security Project reveals that 2/3 of Americans, of soldiers, active duty members, fall within the overweight or obese category. The body mass index, BMI, the obesity rate within the military based on BMI has more than doubled over the past decade, rising from, are you kidding me? Rising from 10 to 21%. The report emphasizes need for addressing this issue, particularly in the context of military recruitment and readiness. The growing obesity rate amongst service members are seen as alarming, affecting the military's ability to recruit an adequate labor force. The report recommends reviewing body composition standards, referring troops with high BMI to specialized doctors for obesity treatment, with including BMI data in the report provided to Congress. What is the recruiting?
Before we get to the guy that is there with the slick black hair and wearing brown, which we'll get to in a sec, because obviously PBD, and PBD is also a veteran himself. Back in 2014, I was kind of red-pilled on this, and me being a prior service Marine, of course, we always jab one another, of course, inter-service, and I was working with a guy who was a former Army. Not going to say his name or anything, don't want to dox anybody or anything like that. And we would go back and forth. I mean, we didn't dislike one another. As a matter of fact, he actually would later on become a friend of mine. And we would just poke fun at one another, jab at one another. One of the things that, quite frankly, he would jab us about is that, why is it you guys love to eat crayons? And, of course, I would always respond with something like, well, they're really good. And, after a while, you eat so many crayons, when you actually regurgitate, which is technically violence, it always creates modern art masterpieces, because Marines, quite frankly, we know how to own the things that we're made fun of. And, of course, we just own it and throw it out there and make it much more comedic than normal. So... my thing was that I always said, man, but you guys are always overweight. Well, he explained to me, he's like, well, dude. One of the reasons why we're so overweight is because we got a lot of reservists. Now, I can already hear somebody in the comment section talking about height and weight standards, and don't worry, we'll get to height and weight standards here in a second. But the thing was this right here. That made me automatically think that this article was including and factoring in reservists, and also at the same time, also factoring, including in National Guard. We'll talk more about this towards the end as far as when we get to solutions. But the thing is this right here. It's very concerning, especially given I'm showing you guys some photos of this president that we have, who, by the way, and if you still believe that this right here is better than the previous one, you really and truly need to get your head checked.
Do not seek, make it clear, we do not seek to have American troops fighting in Russia or fighting against Russia. A little boy here in the United States, about their daily lives. And I know many of you in the Muslim American community, the Arab American community, the Palestinian American community, and so many others are outraged and hurting, saying to yourselves, here we go again with Islamophobia and distrust we saw after 9/11. Just last week,
Looking at the possibility of World War III, which, by the way, I don't think it's going to happen overnight or anything like that. I think we've still got a lot of buildup because Russia's fighting in Ukraine. And I talked about this in a previous video, which, by the way, is going to go into the follow-up to this video here. And, of course, the follow-up is going to talk about the current situation in the world and looking at the United States through basically the exact same medium that we're talking about with this video here. And also, to go on top of this, another medium that I thought was very good at explaining the current situation, at least as far as conversation was concerned. But nobody has any confidence in Joe Biden anymore. Ever since Joe Biden has been president, the military has gone fully woke. Right now, we're in a military recruiting crisis. Nobody wants to join the military for a multitude of reasons. And I would think that Vinny here is very, how do I say, he has extremely legitimate concerns. And of course, he has a right to be angry about this, as you will see.
Pat, the numbers for recruitment is at an all, like, it's, Tom, nobody's joining the military. I'm actually worried, Pat, because not only 70% out of shape is absolutely ridiculous, which has doubled in the past 10 years. Look at what else has the military been doing this year? We lost for a week F-35, $85 million plane. They had no idea where the hell it was. And then they came out and asked the public, hey, do you guys know where it is? It's like, wait a minute. You're the military. You know what I mean? How are you asking us where a stealth fighter is? I mean, apparently I think they found it. It crashed somewhere in the ocean. But, Pat, I'm genuinely worried because besides the weight, besides the losing technology, not keeping up with what's happening in the world with intelligence, the military pays for girls to have boob jobs. And if you want to transition, they're paying for people to have transition surgery. Your tax dollar is going for that. It's the military is getting weak. And with all the stuff that's happening in the world, this is the worst time to have overweight, woke, surgery having people that are like because Tom, we've gotten lackadaisical because nothing has happened. There hasn't been no wars. There hasn't been no deployments. It's a scary thing because I'm not saying, Pat, we need practice, but something needs to happen with the training and something needs to happen, Tom, to keep them on their toes. Because if 70% are overweight, God forbid some ground invasion shit happens, I think we're in bad shape.
Tom.
I agree. I think it's part of a bigger and longer 5-week podcast on America's health and what's going on. But I think this is disgraceful. But I go upstream. Why can't we get young people with a patriotic eye to serve their country?
Well, when you look at what's happening in the
to
school,
unpack with that, a lot to digest, and also not to mention the fact that he's also a prior service Marine. Now, guys, I am about to be 40 years old. I weigh 200 pounds. I'm in relatively good shape for my age, but of course, I've got injuries. I can't get out there on the field of battle like I used to and be able to move around like I was when I was 19, 20 years old. It's just not going to happen. Also, I was a tanker when I was in, but we still received grunt training, and of course, during those 2 deployments, we had to ride around on with Motor T from time to time. We had to ride around on vehicles outside the tank. And of course, we still had to carry our rifles. And of course, there were moments, which I'm not going to go through here, where our grunt training was going to be called upon. Especially if you got into a situation where your vehicle was, you got nailed by IED or something like that. And of course, we've also got this problem with social media and how it is that's making the situation with Israel and Gaza, in my opinion, a lot worse. If you follow me on John Claymore, if you've been watching my videos on Claymore, then you'll kind of know exactly where I lie with that there. But for the purpose of this video here, let me go ahead and stay on topic. This, to me, boils down to an extremely, and I would say that maybe it's possible that it is the current political environment that's creating this, but then again, though, at the same exact time, it also makes me think that maybe NCOs and staff NCOs are not enforcing. Maybe the officers have gotten too lax. It's definitely concerning, especially given the fact that we're set to be going into World War III here probably the next few years or maybe the next few months, depending on how Putin brain operates, especially the situation in the Middle East right now. I don't have any confidence in him, and I don't think anybody else does. And those of you who put this guy in office, I'm not trying to pass judgment. If you want to change your mind, that's fine. If you want to admit that you were wrong for putting this guy in office, I get it. But at the exact same time, if you're not willing to look at the situation, then chances are you're probably a psychopath and you probably need your head checked, like I said before. Crazy. TDS is absolutely something that's going to get this nation completely destroyed. So, but still, at the same time, if you're willing to change your mind and be honest about the situation and actually do something about it, then therefore I can forgive that. But still, you got to ask yourself a question. Was it the current leadership that has put us in this situation? Well, like I said before, military has gone woke. You've got social justice warrior problems. You've got paid boob jobs. You've got paid transit surgeries. I got to say it that way. Right now, this current iteration of our U.S. military is not exactly what we call the military. It's not exactly what the military was designed to do. It also makes me think that the bureaucracy in the military has gotten completely bloated, and it's gotten much, much larger. But still, at the same time, when I look at the fact that NCOs and staff NCOs, who, by the way, I just said could be not be enforcing the actual standards, it's also very possible that maybe, just maybe, that they're being told not to enforce the standards. There's another thing that we're going to be talking about here in the near future, which of course is going to be the follow-up to this video here, which is the thirst trap problem, and how it is that the thirst trap problem is probably going to get men in trouble. So just go ahead and expect there to probably be 3 videos now that I mentioned it, because now I just realized in the back of my mind, I got to separate the 2 takes. Let's watch a little bit more of this.
We're having, what they're saying is, I can't get enough people that are in shape that want to defend their country. So I'm having to expand the criteria to people who are softer and bigger. And I think that's...
And Pat, not to cut you off, Pat, do you, like, no wonder why numbers are down. If you wave a flag, people are like, you're racist. Patriotism is at an all-time low. You can't even say that you love being American because people think that it's a shitty thing to say. That doesn't surprise me.
So by the way, just beautifully put together. Number one, love of the country. You have to have that. You got to have love and pride for the country you represent. Others have it. Our educational system is not increasing love and pride in our country. That's number one. Number two, it's a very good point, Tom. Number two, our standards have dropped, okay? We are trying to be way too soft, allowing trans, allowing, it's okay to do LGBTQ and to do this and to do that. We have to be more such and such. Your enemy doesn't give a shit if you're gay, straight, trans, or black, or white, or Hispanic. They don't care. They want to kill you. And the only thing you can do to protect your country is to be seen, feared, and respected. And the enemy today doesn't fear us and they don't respect us. Why would anybody respect an enemy who's out of shape? This guy's going to run out of breath after 30 seconds of, I can't do this. Can you tell them to stop? Let's take a break. Nobody takes a break in war. There are no timeouts in war. In a game, there may be timeout. Hey, coach, I'm out of breath. You can't go and say, hey, Hamas, let's take a quick 30-second timeout in this war here. Let's take a quick 30 seconds. Let's take a full timeout, timeout to get a break. That doesn't happen in war. So it's pretty embarrassing and pathetic to say.
The spirit is definitely down. Nobody wants to join. Nobody is patriotic. You've got several protesters out there who are protesting on the side of Hamas, protesting on the side of the Palestinians, and not exactly protesting on the side of our ally Israel, who, by the way, was attacked. I understand the intel reports seem to suggest that Israel knew about it, and Netanyahu is the one who's getting blamed by his own people for it. But that nation was already divided, and Hamas had been planning the attack for 2 years. So they went ahead and decided to go ahead and get involved and go ahead and attack, even though Biden had also just given them $6 billion that were there being Iran. And of course, Putinhead would also give $100 million to the Palestinians while he was on this trip to Israel, and he decided to have the gall to actually say that in front of the Israelis. I mean, you figure if somebody wanted to be covert, he would actually do this. This right here is the main reason why nobody wants to join the military. Also, not to mention the fact when you see bodies coming off the plane at Dover Air Force Base, and this guy seems to he wants to check his watch or whatnot, nobody's going to want to join. Is it possible that a lot of guys are actually joining overweight, which, by the way, the standards, the height and weight standards, of course, would signal to you to not take these men in. But then again, at the same time, there's some other that are getting in, and of course, they're overweight. Seems like to me like there's a lot of very, very big problems here. Now, those problems I really and truly don't know where to start with, because when I first read the article, I didn't seem to understand that they had decided to lump anybody and everybody who was fully active duty, and they didn't even bother to look at the reservists. I'm pretty sure that reservists are a much, much worse situation. By the way, I'm not doing this to rag on reservists at all. I want you to know that right now. If you're a reservist or in the National Guard, I understand why you're there. But at the same time, the same people who are in reserves and National Guard, a lot of times they're working day jobs and they don't have time to go to the gym or keep themselves in shape. So I've thought about this long and hard, and I think I've got some solutions to this problem. Our United States Marine Corps sits at about 180,000 men. The United States Army sits right below 500. We haven't even gotten to the actual reserve numbers, but when you factor in reserve, National Guard, when you factor in overall boots on the ground force with the administrative wing, which, by the way, the Army and the Air Force have become much, much more administrative, as well as the Navy, you're looking at a situation where you've got... altogether, that 1.4 million man force, which then maxes out to about 2.2, but if 70% of the total force is already overweight, then that means that you're only looking at maybe 500,000 tops that are actually within the height and weight requirements that need to be to actually be combat effective. And I'm going to go ahead and take a wild guess and say that of that 500,000, about 145,000 of them, probably 150,000 of them are U.S. Marines, not to mention the fact they decided to integrate women with men in combat roles, which was an absolutely horrible idea. And those people who were very, very much in favor of it say, you know, women should experience what the hell men should be experiencing. Shut the hell up, you freaking pussy. Putting women in active military roles, in active combat roles with men will get other men killed. It's about height, weight standards. There's a reason why they exist. It's about drill. It's about being able to drag somebody off during the middle of a firefight. That's what the hell it exists for. It's all these psychopaths who want the women, the mothers of our children, to go out there and actually get possibly killed and other men killed. They are the problem with this country. Makes me wonder if they should probably go to the front first in case the draft is actually implemented. But don't worry, we'll talk more about a draft in the follow-up video. But here's the deal. One solution that I think we should actually consider is calling up every single one of the reserves and making them active duty. Allow the NCOs to actually do their jobs, PT the shit out of the men, get them back in shape, and of course, open up actual honest-to-God recruiting. I hate to tell you guys this, but there's going to be a situation here in the near future where, men are going to be needed because the economy is already about to crash. Your unemployment rate, while it's gone down, people are getting jobs there. I've been forced to work 2 to 3 jobs part-time, and they're not exactly doing it to make ends meet because of the rate of inflation, and they're only getting about 12 to 16 hours per week at each job. That right there is something that they're not telling you. A lot of these jobs that the Biden administration claims that they have created are part-time jobs, and of course, we already know most of those jobs were jobs that came back post-pandemic. I think what needs to happen is the standards itself need to change, and we need drastic reform in the military. And I think the first thing we can do is make all reservists, put them back on active duty standards and activate them so that way they can actually PT 3 days a week to get themselves back in shape. We've got a long road to hoe here when it comes to turning around our U.S. military. With that right there being said, guys, let me go ahead and get into what it was that I wanted to tell you guys before I started this video, which, by the way, was the overall updates and where we're going to be going for the Gear Issue 33 channel and the actual official date when I'm actually going to be back with this type of content. So with that there being said, let's go ahead and dive into it. There are several projects that I wrote out because I plan on expanding the overall John Claymore thing. Of course, this where I be John Claymore, of course, is the main channel, Gear Issue 33, my more military-based channel. There's another channel that I'm working on called the Sports Art. By the way, I'm not going to be posting all these channels next year or right away. That's just way too much to get into. But of course, I need to take some time. I need to kind of sit down and actually think about things. I need to kind of write things out, projects. And of course, outside of military movies that need to be reviewed and military history, and of course, fact finding, saying, look, you know, what's true about this, what's not true about that, what's the actual history and stuff, which, by the way, would always be an element of every single military movie review that I do. There were other things that I wanted to do, like stuff like reviewing Matthew Lomer's Marxism in the Military, or Colonel Stuart Scheller's issue, you know, Crisis in Command, things like that. Well, the more and more I've thought about that, I've looked at the Claymore channel, which is designed to be a little bit more, how do I say, a little bit more cerebral to today's society. I wanted to include those takes and put them there and make this where I just strictly military movie reviews, weapons, military stories from time to time, talk about other veteran-related things. Of course, there's even some videos that I plan on doing that are going to be reappraised. But the reason why I want to do that is because this is actually this is going to be more of a channel for those who have questions about what was this in this movie, what's the actual military history here. I want to focus on that right there, make this, for the most part, about the military, but no politics or anything like that, just honest-to-God explanations on things. These videos, by the way, that I'm doing right now will, of course, still exist on this platform, and they will be placed inside of a different playlist. You'll see when the channel officially reopens back up, you will see an actual change in the actual playlist itself. I'll have an update for you guys on that soon. And of course, the plan was not really to post this video until later on this month. But I thought of it, I was like, you know what? Let's go ahead and get it posted today. Let's go ahead and get it posted. Let's go ahead and get it out there. Let's get a follow-up. And of course, now another follow-up, which by the way, talks about the thirst trap in the military, of which in each single video, I'm going to be giving you guys updates on the actual date and when things are set to start. I'm going to go ahead and start this process in the month of November, probably the first, second week. And we're going to focus on weapons. We had an incident the other day during the whole Israel-Gaza thing where a bunch of people were going crazy saying they're using white phosphorus on Palestinians, when in reality, if you actually looked at the photo and you actually looked at the video, you could see that it was not white phosphorus. It was just good old-fashioned smoke designed to cloud the vantage point of those who were shooting at the choppers, who were using RPGs. We got a lot of idiots out there online who don't understand basic common things about the military, so I'm going to go ahead and go forward with that. The plan was to talk about napalm and weapons like that, but I figured I'd go ahead and add white phosphorus to the actual arsenal itself. So that is exactly where we're going to be going at, and I'll provide you guys more and more updates as we go along. The next the next video is going to be coming out. It's going to be talking about the current situation at large. It's also going to be a bit of a spinoff from another video that I'm putting out on Claymore. And then, of course, there's this whole thirst trap issue that a lot of men, I think, are stupidly falling for. That video will come out later on. I can't promise you that it'll be coming out every day. This video will come out on Saturday. The goal is to try to get the next video out more than likely on Wednesday, and then the next one out the following weekend. Of course, in all three videos, there's going to be actual updates of what's going on, an official date set for actual projects, and of course, more talk about what it is that we're going to be talking about. Of course, we're going to start with weapons. We're going to work our way back in from weapons. I'm talking about stuff like grenades, things like we're going to work our way from grenades and white phosphorus, good old-fashioned weapons. We're going to work our way back into military films, military movies, and history, and that also includes even retrospects like the one I did with Rambo, First Blood, book versus the film. With that right there being said, guys, I apologize for not being online for a while here. I've been bogged down, but now I finally got an idea of how to schedule this entire stuff out. I've got some white crap on my finger. Make sure you guys please hit that like button, subscribe, share the video, sign off in the comment section. I would love to get you guys' thoughts, and I'll see you guys later.